Language English nostalgia is a sort of reckoning. It hits you maybe at points where you feel bereft, drained by the present. When I heard that How I Met Your Mother was going to have a standalone UEL, all I could offer was disdain. Not because a bunch of business execs thought it was a good idea to rehash something old in a new skin, because let's be honest, it happens all the time, but because one by the original's pouty snuggly standards, a novel-gazing sitcom about white folks hopping from one almost relationship to the other sounds dated. Not only are we now attuned to better quality fare, but the complexities of modern relationships far overreach the pompous assumptions of the sitcoms FYO. And so while How I Met Your Father is more diverse and seemingly assembled in the present, it is so utterly boring, wasteful and lifeless that, like one of Ted Mosby's many dates, it feels like an unnecessary gibberish detour from a better story. There was a time somewhere in the middle of How I Met Your Mother that tested the patience of even the most ardent fans of the franchise. HIMYM, as it came to be known, was a rosier than thou substitute for Friends, a show it almost emulated other in places where it was pushed to do something of its own. But while Friends was about the friend HIMYM, you could argue, wanted to be about how Ross and Rachel got together. Ted Mosby moseyed arrow untown, relentlessly pursuing relationships with the ballistic denial of the hero left with one bullet in his gun. Except the bullet was us, and a mediocre show continued to fire us past the obvious. Until in the end, in a stunningly underwhelming finale, even by sitcom finale standards, confirmed it had indeed done so. It's the kind of punch to the drained gut that makes the prime of youth feel the bend in the lower back earned at the altar of pointless nights spent binge-watching. In this version, Hilary Duff plays Sophie, the punch-drunk girl seeking love in a series populated by new characters but familiar structures. Sophie meets yappy comrades in Valentina, Jesse, Charlie, Sid and Mo, who are caricatures rather than layered complex people. Wearing the diversity badges, Asura J. Sharma as Sid, the personalityless Barona, and Tien Tran as the spiky Ellen sister to Jesse, play by the somewhat dreamy but ultimately forgettable Chris Lowell. There are enough types here to ink that some friction would magically set something alight. The show is so lazily conceived it almost Saint feels like a sedated version of the original, which is like saying in this one they really drown. Marshall and Lily's cutesy couple grew to become the soul of the original series, not because they were rewritten audaciously but because they captured the goofiness of growing older together. It's easy, obviously, to be pulled in by the dramatism of a Barney, but it was really the couple, not to mention Jason Segel and Allison Hannigan's acting, that held the ground in a show that every now and then both adrift a little too daft for the age it was playing out in. The inherent romanticism of he format, the story behind How I Met the One, is carried over to this reboot with social media influencers and Tinder thrown into the mix, but the writing itself has a problem of blushing before the punchline, of which there are precious few. Okay, there was maybe one joke in the 4th episode kind of sticks, but the rest of it is so meanderingly sparse and half-hearted it might as well be led How I Almost Never Told You This needless story. What is perhaps most offensive about this new version is that it is not even an adequate or perhaps worthy homage to the despotic romanticism of the original. It wants to be raunchier but doesn't quite have the language to do it. It definitely NTS to be diverse with eyelash-curling casting choices and LGBTQ relationships, but there are no intuitive outlines to any of the characters it hovers over. It doesn't help that the show thinks casty. NG types the handsome British guy, the charming brown dude from downstairs, or the peppy Asian is all it takes to build an interesting ensemble. It's almost as if these people stumble into each other on a daily basis with little or literally no understanding of who the other person is. If this is a comment on the obscuring effects of modern love social media on the glorious twofold tales of Roman CE, then well, message delivered. Except HIMYF is so banal and untrained in its methods, its comedy ISTS without the punchlines, faces jolly around without evolving into characters, and nostalgia stares into your eyes, painfully mindful of its own shallowness. So much so that even the good-looking NG people in meet cute woke relationships in this lethargically made show can only make us wonder if everyone who doesn't last the entirety of this tedious format as a character is a survivor, or maybe even a winner. How I Met Your Father is streaming in India on Disney Hotstar. Manik Sharma writes on art and culture, cinema, books and everything in between. Read all the latest news, trending news, cricket news, Bollywood news, India news and entertainment news here. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram.